Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the time given to say a few words on the allocation to the Presidential Secretariat, the Supreme Court, independent commissions, and a long list of 25 institutions. Before I get to the subject matter, I wish to clarify what we did at the vote last evening. I did explain right at the end of my speech. Nevertheless, there was time was insufficient. So therefore, I'd like to say that right through the debate on the second reading, all members of the Tamil National Alliance criticized the budget, every one of us, for various reasons. I don't need to repeat that. And ordinarily, we would have had to, therefore, vote against the budget at the second reading. However, we took a decision not to cast our vote against the budget at the second reading for one reason, and that is because His Excellency the President has on numerous occasions in the last few days, the last 10 days, repeatedly said that he wants to resolve the Tamil national question and has invited Tamil parties to have discussions with him. We have publicly expressed our skepticism about this invitation. Nevertheless, when there is a hand that is stretched out from the President himself, we thought we must reciprocate in some way and therefore would not vote against the budget as a signal of our bona fides in this matter. நேற்றைய தினம் இரண்டாம் வாசிப்பிலே நாங்கள் வாக்கெடுப்பிலே கலந்து கொள்ளாமல் விட்டதற்கான காரணம் பாதீட்டிலே இருக்கிற பல குறைபாடுகளை நாங்கள் சுட்டிக்காட்டி இருந்தோம். அதற்கு எதிராகத்தான் தமிழ் தேசிய கூட்டமைப்புடைய நாடாளுமன்ற உறுப்பினர்கள் அனைவரும் உரையாற்றியும் இருந்தோம். சாதாரணமாக அப்படியான சந்தர்ப்பத்திலே அதற்கு எதிராக வாக்களித்திருக்க வேண்டும். ஆனால் அப்படி நாங்கள் செய்யாமல் விட்டதற்கு ஒரே ஒரு காரணம், ஜனாதிபதி அவர்கள் தமிழ் கட்சிகளை தமிழ் தேசிய பிரச்சனையை தீர்ப்பதற்காக தன்னோடு கலந்துரையாடுமாறு கடந்த 10 நாட்களிலே பல தடவைகள் அழைத்திருக்கிறார். அந்த அழைப்பிலே எங்களுக்கு நம்பிக்கை குறைவாக இருந்தாலும் கூட அப்படியான ஒரு அழைப்பு இருக்கிற போது ஒரு நல்லெண்ண சமிஞ்சையாக நாங்களும் செயற்பட வேண்டும் என்பதற்காக எதிர்த்து வாக்களிக்காமல் விலகியிருந்தோம். This, as I came into the house, there was a discussion. Now that the President is also here, I might say that in Sinhala, ඊයේ දිනදී අපි දෙවනි කියවීමකට එරෙහිව අපි ඡන්ද නොදුන්නට කාරණාවක් මම දැන් පැහැදිලි කරලා දුන්නා. අපි මේ ඈවැට විරුද්ධව තමයි කතා කරේ. දමළ ජාතික සන්ධානයේ മന്ത്രിවරුන් හැම කෙනාම ඒකට විරුද්ධව කතා කරා. අපි ඒකට විරුද්ධව ඡන්ද දෙන්න හිටියේ. එනමුත් ජනාධිපතිතුමා දැන් මෑත කාලයේදී දැන් දවස් 10ක ඇතුළත කීප වතාවක් දමළ ජාතික ප්‍රශ්නයට විසඳීමක් හොයන්න පුළුවන්. මම ආරාධනා කරනවා දමළ පක්ෂවලට අවිලා සාකච්ඡා කරන්න කියලා. අපිට ආරාධනා කරපු නිසා අපි ඒ ආරාධනා තියෙන වෙලාවේ විරුද්ධව ඡන්ද දෙන එක හොඳ නැහැ කියලා හිතලා අපි ඡන්දයෙන් වැළැක්වලා හිටියා. As I walked into the chamber today, there is discussion between the chief, the opposition whip and the Honorable Prime Minister. I want to make certain observation with regard to that. As has been observed in Article 4C of our Constitution, the judicial power of the people shall be exercised by Parliament through courts, tribunals and other institutions. And even in that, a reservation is made with regard to the powers and privileges of Parliament and its members, which Parliament will directly exercise. That has not been delegated to the judiciary. So the judiciary is independent. The Constitution stipulates that also in the chapter on the judiciary. Nevertheless, the sovereign judicial power is vested in Parliament, and it's Parliament that exercises it through courts. There is sometimes a confusion with regard to references being made to judicial decisions, and I might cite the standing orders, the previous standing orders. The previous standing order number 78, standing order 78, read thus: the conduct of the President, acting President, of members of Parliament, judges and other persons engaged in the administration of justice shall not be raised upon a substantive motion. This standing order was amended in the new standing orders that came into effect on 15th of April 2018 in Rule 90, Rule I'll find that rule. The words conduct, the conduct of President, acting President or judges has been changed to the personal conduct. So presently, as the standing order reads, it's only the personal conduct of the President, acting President, members of Parliament or judges should not be discussed except upon a substantive motion. These are change, an important change. What was said to be conduct has now been restricted to personal conduct. So, and that was done advisedly. I remember being on the Standing Orders Committee at that time, which made this amendment. The Honorable Minister of Justice was also a member, and we made this recommendation, and Parliament adopted the new Standing Orders, which changed it. The reason why I'm mentioning this is that when judicial power of the people is vested in Parliament, but that power is exercised by another body, surely the Parliament must be in a place to discuss that. Not the personal conduct of judges, no, that you can't, except upon a substantive motion. But the judicial conduct, judgments, in any case, judgments can be criticized, even outside Parliament. As Honorable Kiriella pointed out, there is no, as Lord Acton said, justice is not a cloistered virtue. It must suffer the scrutiny of ordinary men. So, that can be done even outside. But within Parliament, Parliament has a very sacred and a special duty to discuss even the conduct of judges, not only judgments. So, having clarified that, may I raise another issue with regard to the Office of Missing Persons. I mentioned this yesterday too, but now that the allocations are being discussed at committee stage today, this is an important issue. When this bill was presented, Office of Missing Persons, the President will recall he was Prime Minister when Honorable Mangala Samaravira presented this bill. Only 3 people spoke. The minister who presented the bill, Honorable Bimal Ratnayaka from the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, and myself. The then opposition members disturbed the proceedings. They approached the Honorable Foreign Minister and tried to disrupt the passage of this bill. However, it was passed. Now, what is contained in this bill that has now become an act? It is a mechanism to investigate those who have been disappeared, the enforced disappearances. That is why enforced disappearances also had to be made an offense in this country. This is an office that is vested by law with the power to make investigations to find out what happened to them. Primarily, that is the duty. In 2017, an allocation of 500 million was made for this office. Rupees 500 million. To be given away as interim payments. Now, some people think that this is compensation. No. For compensation, there is another office, Office of Reparations. That act also was passed in this parliament, or in the last parliament. This is interim payments for the dependents of the person who has been disappeared, for their livelihood. It was announced that 6,000 rupees a month would be paid. But what we find is that out of that 500 million, only 11 million was paid. Only 11 million was paid. And then in 2020 budget for 2021, another 300 million was allocated. And when that was allocated, it was said that this is in addition to the allocation already made. I know that when an allocation is made for a year, that ends with that year. So what was envisaged was that entire 500 million would be spent in that 1 year. Only 11 million was spent. But when 300 million was set apart, it was said that that was in addition to the 500 million. 800 million was allocated. Only 11 million, nothing was paid out of that 300 million. Only 11 million was paid. Now, that is recognizing that their relative, their breadwinner, has been disappeared. But that doesn't absolve this office of its core duty of conducting investigations to find what happened to them. The relatives of the disappeared want to know what happened to them. The state has an obligation to make these payments, but that's by the way. The primary obligation is to investigate to see what happened to them. 5 years on, 5 years on, not a single investigation has been done by this office. Not a single investigation has been done by this office. And the chairman has the gall to say that no one has disappeared. I mentioned this yesterday too. He says no one has disappeared. So there are two different things. One is the interim payments. Even that has not been done properly. But the core function of this office is yet to start. I'm mentioning this today in this way because the President was seen greeting South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at the airport here and cutting a cake for his birthday and announcing that South Africa is willing to help in the reconciliation process. All that is very good. But reconciliation begins with the ascertainment of the truth. There is no reconciliation by sweeping the truth under the carpet. That there will be no reconciliation. That must be made known. It is only by the first act of the ascertainment of the truth that there can be true reconciliation. So you set up an office 5 years ago. You haven't had even one investigation that is done. So then when you say we are serious about reconciliation, are we to be blamed for saying that those words sound hollow? Are we to be blamed for that? Your actions must speak louder than your words. But all we have is words, words and words. Nothing on the ground. And as I speak, more lands are being acquired. On the 23rd of September, a letter was sent by the Ministry of Lands to acquire the balanced lands that are in around Palali, 1,614 acres. Now, government has repeatedly said that they are releasing these lands in around Palali airport, sir. Yeah. 23rd of September, a letter was sent to continue with the acquisition process that was commenced in 2013. In 2013, when the acquisition process started, it was 6,438 acres. There are 2,176 petitioners in court challenging that in the Court of Appeal. I appear for them. I must disclose my interest according to the etiquette. So I appear in those 2,176 petitioners. Most of their lands have been released. It's true that most of the lands have been released. But it's one acquisition order. And now what has not been released is this part, about 2,000 acres and about 1,614. They've given instructions to go ahead and acquire it. So, on the one hand, words about reconciliation, about resettlement, about release of lands, but on the other hand, we see the opposite happening. I'm thankful that the President just responded saying that he'll look into that. Similarly, we have brought this to your attention, how the Forest Department, Wildlife Department, more than anything else, the Archaeology Department have been using those special laws that are given to them to move our people out of their lands. Lands that they have occupied for generations. Suddenly, overnight, stones are placed around their boundaries and they are told you can't enter this place anymore. Now this is happening. This is happening as I speak. So where is that reconciliation? And we welcome the President's initiative when he says we will resolve everything. The President made this speech in Vavuniya 2 and said all the people must agree on what the solution is, and we are agreeable. Nothing will be sustainable if one section or the other of our people oppose it. So we understand that. We want all the people of this country to be content and be satisfied and feel secure that this is their country. So we welcome your initiative. You know that this particular matter has received a lot of attention over the years, even during the time in the last parliament under your chairmanship in the steering committee. The Honorable Prime Minister also was a member, and we went through this whole process. There's a large amount of consensus, only a few things that need to be sorted out, and that can be done even in a day's sitting. That can be done. You don't even require 3 months. In a day's sitting, that can be resolved. That is crucial, because if you are looking to the South African example, that is what happened there. And they have told us in previous times when we visited, secure your future before you look at your past. Secure your future before you look at your past. In South Africa, a political change happened before they could look at accountability issues. So that fundamental change must happen. And in my humble opinion, that must precede other measures. Sure enough, you need to do a lot of confidence building exercises, because there is a serious lack of trust, of suspicion, because of the long history and what has happened that is there. So confidence building measures are important, but crucial it is to actually settle the core issue, settle the root issue, and then look at other justice and accountability issues. Because then people will have a very different outlook on how to resolve those. So on this occasion, when we discuss the President's office, we recognize that you perhaps are the only person in this house, although you're not a member of this house, in this house today, who's had the longest experience even in this matter. You are part of the government negotiation team that negotiated with the TULF from the middle to the end of 1986, which later ended with the Indo-Lanka Accord and 13th Amendment, which we did not accept as a meaningful scheme of devolution. Nevertheless, the President has been involved in this from that time onwards and knows everything that is to know about the resolution of this. We also have, as I speak, President Rajapaksa here, who appointed the All-Party Representatives Committee, APRC, headed by Professor Tissavitarna. They came up with the report. Although we were not invited to that, we did not participate in that committee. That's a good report. That's a good report. And many members in the front row there today in the government were members of the cabinet in August 2000, when President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga actually brought a bill, a constitution bill to Parliament. The United National Party, at that time led by the President, opposed it only because of a transitional provision with regard to executive presidency, not because of the devolution arrangements in that. So all of this we have, all of this consensus we have, but we yet to take it over the line. And that is what has been entrusted to the President now. As we seek to come out of this economic crisis, the political crisis intertwined with the economic crisis. If the country is to have a new image, if the country is to infuse new confidence in the world stage, then this political resolution that has plagued this country ever since independence, and I've heard the President say this more than once, 75th anniversary of the independence, we must be all children of one mother. And that's a good ideal to work towards, but it's a very short time before that. And I want to repeat what we have said in public. We are willing to work with you constructively to achieve that objective that you have enunciated. We are willing to do that, to achieve the reasonable and legitimate aspirations of our people, and indeed of all the people who live in this country. You will be aware that in the last parliament, when we went through the process of constitutional reform, through the Constitutional Assembly process, our leader, Honorable Sumanthiran, repeatedly told this House that he wants the new constitution, accepted at a referendum. He said, I don't want to do anything behind the back of the majority people of this country. Everyone must feel secure.
Honourable Member, only 2 minutes left.
Thank you. So that is our desire as well, that the majority people of this country must also accept it. More than 40 countries in the world today have a federal form of government. Those are the strongest countries in the world. More than 40% of the population of the world are in federal countries. You have others who are quasi-federal, who sometimes call themselves unitary, like Great Britain, where the extent of devolution is far more than even in a federal form of government. So, we don't ask for something that is not found anywhere in the world. We are asking for something that is reasonable, that is practiced all around the globe, that will ensure that all our people will live with dignity and self-respect in this country. And we want the majority people in this country to understand that and accept that. After all, you are a preponderant majority. No one can shift that. It was SWRD Bandaranaike in 1926 who introduced the idea of federalism to this country, not the Tamil leaders. It was the Communist Party, the first political party that adopted a resolution on federalism was the Communist Party in 1934, the Vaithalingam-Kennaman proposals. It was the Kandyan chiefs who asked for federal form of government twice before the Donamo and before the Solbari Constitution. So it can't be bad for the Sinhala people, because it was the Sinhala leaders who asked for it. It's true that over time, wrong messages have been communicated to the country, and there are suspicions. Those must be allayed, and we must resolve this in a just way so that we can all then stand up as the President envisages on the 4th of February 2023 as children of one mother. Thank you.